Our week 4 cash lineup fell short, scoring only 109 points, but our GPP lineup was a winner, tallying 163 points. We'll debrief about all that and get you ready for week 5 with a full cash and GPP lineup, and we'll reveal a surprise I think you're gonna like. All that coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee from the Fantasy Football Consultant. We're going to reveal that surprise in just a minute. But first, let's talk about our cash game duds. It was Mike Gesicki, only 2 points. The Dallas Cowboys scored less points than I did. They were negative and very disappointing. Kenyon Drake, even though he was playing a bad Carolina rush defense, was non-existent in the pass game, couldn't convert 2 goal line carries, scored only 3.5 points. On a positive note, some studs from our GPP lineup. We really took advantage of that contrarian stack, a contrarian because it wasn't a big over-under, that Tampa Bay LA Charger game, but we thought it could be a shootout, and it was. And paying off for us was Mike Evans for 22 points. The other side of that stack, QB Justin Herbert scored 24 points. Got to give it up to Dalvin Cook, 28 points, but a big thank you from Odell Beckham Jr., who scored 36 points. All right, let's talk about the contest that we're currently running on this channel for our subscribers. So if you're not a subscriber, smash that red subscriber button. Here's what you do. It is so simple. You have to qualify, and I'll tell you how to qualify for a minute, but the qualifiers, there's only going to be 20 qualifiers. We'll compete later in the season on FanDuel. You'll enter a full FanDuel lineup in 1 week, and the highest scorer takes home $50. Then we'll do the contest again with those same 20 qualifiers, and the winning lineup will get another $50. So you can win up to $100. Free entry. So how do you qualify for this free entry contest? It's simple. Go into the YouTube comment section of this video and every one of our FanDuel videos and tell us 3 things. 1, who is your favorite play of the week considering their FanDuel price? And 2, give us your reasons why. Give us some analysis for why you think that player is going to go off given their price. And then finally, tell us your FanDuel username. After the results of all the games are in, I will review all of the analysis and make and decide who I think made the best calls, 1 or 2 people. And I want to just say something to some of the people who I know watch our content and they enjoy our content, but they never get involved. They may not subscribe, or they certainly don't write comments. Don't take a passive approach. You can make this YouTube channel really be a lot better than it otherwise would be by engaging in the comment section. So go ahead. You may never put a YouTube comment in. It's all right. Just go down, click your YouTube comment, and give us your take. We really would appreciate it. And hey, you could win $100. Really impressed by the analysis the previous week, but let's just get more people involved. All right. And the benefit of that is you can come back to the video toward the end of the week, see some of the takes that people are giving and the reasons why, and it might influence you to adjust your lineup. All right, everybody. That's enough of that. Let's reveal the surprise that I've been teasing all week. In 5 seconds, the surprise will be revealed. Bam. And we want to welcome back to the show FFC co-founder Gary Kurtzman.
Yes. All right, I'm back, people. Yes, that's right. I'm not back. I'm not. I'm a full-time teacher. Come on, I don't have time for this stuff. Jeez, Eric begged me. He begged me to be back on the show. Oh, I miss this, man. I do. I miss this. I'm sorry I can't do this full-time with you anymore, buddy. I think you're doing a great job keeping it going and keeping it real and growing the channel. And I'm pleased as punch to be back here at least once for this cameo appearance.
All right, so why don't we get into producing our cash and GPP lineup? You're going to stay on, and we're going to do that together. All right, we're going to start by constructing our cash game lineup. And Gary, what position do we like to start off in cash? Pop quiz.
Pop quiz. It is always the running backs, Eric. You know that. The viewers know that from our DFS Masters Class series. The running back is a position that responds, it correlates with the most points, with the most consistency. That's where typically you'd spend the most money. I'm going to save you a little bit of money, just a little bit with the first pick, though, because we are going with James Robinson of your Jacksonville Jaguars, Eric. Eric, I love this guy. He's everything that you want in a running back in a cash game. He's got that high floor. You need the high floor in the cash game. Eric, we are 4 games into the NFL. James Robinson has 4 straight double-digit fantasy points. In fact, 3 straight weeks with greater than 100 yards. And you know what? That's even in losses. And especially when you're talking about a team like Jacksonville, that is a very important concept. James Robinson is game script proof, people. And again, Jacksonville versus Houston. Houston is the favorite. Don't be scared off. He's got that high floor. He did well over 100 yards, for instance, in a touchdown loss last week. He's proved that he gets double-digit points regardless of what the matchup is. But not only that, he's got a high ceiling. You got to love this guy. In 2 out of the 4 games, he's gotten more than 20 points, for crying out loud. That's how much they like to use James Robinson. And who's the opponent? Well, it's just Houston. After all, they allow the 2nd most rushing yards of anybody in the NFL. So I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to be concerned about here. Frankly, Eric, it's a ridiculously low price for his value. I'm a little bit surprised the price hasn't caught up to the value of James Robinson yet.
Can you remind me, Gary, how many NFL teams are there?
32.
Oh, and okay. All right. I'm sure that all the Houston players tell their family members they're the 32nd ranked defense. They just don't say that they're 32nd. So yeah, can you explain to me what FanDuel is thinking? Only $6,600?
I'm not quite sure. He, if you scroll down the list, Eric, until what number? I'm curious. So scroll up. Scroll up. What priced running back is he? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. If I counted right, he's the 15th priced running back. Well, by the way, he's the 7th highest scorer in the league in FanDuel this year. In fact, 6th in DraftKings, right? And yet he's still the 15th price. I think what it is.
Exit Damian Williams. Enter Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
The Fresh Prince of Helaire. Love this guy.
Boy, you know what? Just talk about ticking off all the boxes, Gary, in a running back. Do we want a running back that's home or away, Gary?
Oh, we want the home guy, Eric, for sure.
Do we want someone who is favorite or underdog?
Love me the favorite.
12-point favorite this week.
Ooh.
An absolute insane implied total of 34.5. By far the highest implied total of the slate. He has averaged 21 touches this year. And if you want to criticize him, one thing you want to criticize him in is you say, hey, Eric, he doesn't get touchdowns. He only's gotten 1 touchdown this year. Guess what? Except for Ezekiel Eliott, nobody has gotten more inside the 5 carries than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Unfortunately, he has not converted any of them to touchdowns, but that will come. And why not have it come this week when he plays the Las Vegas Raiders, who also are telling their family and bragging that they're the 27th ranked defense, but leaving out, of course, that they're 32 teams. They can absolutely expose this team. Man, I like this pick.
Oh, I love this pick. Look, they're not giving the red zone carries to anybody else.
Not only, Gary, is no one else getting goal line carries. Last game, no other running back was getting carries, period. Only 1 other carry all game by a running back last week. We got 2 running backs who are going to get a lot of touches this week. Now when we switch to wide receiver, where are we going to go to get those touches?
Oh,
in target.
we are going to go to a guy like James Robinson. Needs a lot more name recognition, Eric. We are going Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why do I like this guy? Well, first of all,
I'm scrolling down.
He screams, Eric. He just screams at the top of his lungs value. I of everybody, including James Robinson, of everybody in our lineup, he's the guy that I'm surprised he's so lower priced. Why? Well, first of all, do you know that before he got injured, first of all, he's got injured. He's only played 2 games. Okay, he got a concussion. He's out of concussion protocol. He's practicing in full. And everybody believes that he's going to be playing this week. It shouldn't be any concern at all. Okay, so back to why I like this guy. Well, prior to getting a concussion, he literally had the second most targets in the entire NFL. If your name isn't DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson got thrown to more times than you, right? He's Pittsburgh's wide receiver 1. All right, with all due respect to you Juju Smith-Schuster fans out there, who's got the most targets? Who's got them on a per game basis because he was injured? Who's got the most targets? Who's got the most catches? Who's got the most receiving yards? And folks, it's not close. It's not close. It's Deontay Johnson. He is Pittsburgh's wide receiver 1. And yet, Eric, as my witness, he is $1,400 cheaper than Juju Smith-Schuster. I really think that FanDuel's on drugs. I think they haven't been watching football. I think that they're way off base on Pittsburgh. This guy, first of all, high floor. I mean, second highest targets per game in the NFL. That screams high floor. Incredible value. Love this guy.
Yeah. Now, we had mentioned in an NFL Masterclass that we shy away from guys coming off concussion protocol. But Deontay Johnson would have been available the previous week. But remember, due to those positive tests, that game got postponed. So he's been practicing in full. He's ready to go. So I'm super excited to have Deontay Johnson in our lineup. So, and especially at $5,800.
I love it. So are you going to save us some more money, Eric? Where are you going with
I'd like to. I mean, Gary, you just got us a number 1 wide receiver who is in a good matchup. Well, I don't mind saying myself, only $200 more. I would like to pick up Tyler Boyd. Okay, as Gary had to deal with some Juju Smith truthers, I would like to talk to all the AJ Green truthers. The era is over. The number 1 wide receiver on the Cincinnati Bengals is definitely Tyler Boyd. And normally, Gary, you would say, who cares? But Joe Burrow is such a major upgrade over anyone else who's been at quarterback. It's incredible. And you might say, Gary, well, maybe this is a Joe Mixon game. I saw Joe Mixon did very well last week. Well, look,
Did you translate to an old man on that one, Eric? Because I was an old man in the NFL, Joe Mixon.
I was going for geeky. I was going for people who don't watch the games and just look at the stats and say, Mixon, he's going great. Well, Mixon was bottled up all year until he faced those Jacksonville Jaguars, and he exposed them. He's not going to be able to do it to the Ravens. Look at this. Seventh against the rush, very strong. They're a little bit more susceptible in the passing game, and game skip rise. They're 13.5 point dogs. So they're going to have to pass, and just look at the targets. Joe Burrow has said, look, I find Boyd as a dependable presence on and off the field. He'll rely on him.
Well, and he has been, right? Because, I mean, the dude over the last 3 games has averaged close to 100 yards, 8 catches. I mean, this guy's clearly the leader, like you said. Hey, 1 point on Burrow. For all you, I get he's a rookie, right? Hey, he was the first pick in the draft after all, but I get that there may be some people out there who aren't Burrow believers. Well, let me tell you this. Who is the only rookie quarterback in NFL history to string together 3 300-yard plus passing games? The answer is not Montana, Marino, Staubach, or any other committee. The answer is Burrow, literally. I'm telling you, man, this guy is the real freaking deal. And I love me some Joe Burrow to Tyler Boyd connection. I love that pick. Now, can we stick with the theme, Eric? I see you and I raise you another number one wide receiver value pick who needs name recognition, people. Robbie Anderson of my Carolina Panthers. Ignore my Niners background. Okay, I'll adopt him for this game. Look, here's facts, folks. The fact is he has more targets, he has more catches, and he has more yards than DJ Moore. And yet he's $400 cheaper. This is another example of how we can take advantage of what clearly isn't dynamically enough pricing in FanDuel's algorithm. I mean, that's the name of the game, right? They have their algorithms, and their algorithms rely on history. And unfortunately for FanDuel, they rely too much on history, so they don't fully capture the recent trends. Okay, Robbie Anderson, what has he done? What has he done before this year? Not much. Why? Because he played for Adam Gase. Give me one player in the NFL that does well under Adam Gase. Dude, please, for the love of God, follow the Houston, coach and GM out the door, for crying out loud. I don't know why he still has a job, but I can tell you this much. Matt Rule has Robbie Anderson running the short routes and the intermediate routes, not just the fly patterns that Adam Gase used to have, and it's working. In fact, it's working because it's right in Teddy Bridgewater's sweet spot. And it turns out it's right in Robbie Anderson's sweet spot too. By the way, those routes used to be run by DJ Moore. So sorry for all your season-long fans who drafted him. Robbie Anderson was the better draft, the better value pick, and he probably could have gone in 5 rounds later. But that aside, what's Robbie Anderson done? Well, he's had triple-digit, over 100-yard in 3 of the 4 games. The guy's got incredibly high floor. Oh, and by the way, Atlanta, they have a really bad pass defense. This is a great matchup, but they have a great offense. This is going to be a shootout, folks. You can bet on volume. You can bet on passing. And when you bet on passing with Carolina, you can bet on Robbie Anderson. Love this pick.
Anderson, Gary, is a great pick. But the problem with showing the stats to all our home viewers is we can show when you massage the facts a little bit. You said 3 of 4 games. He's got over 100 yards.
99. It was a rounding error. It was
Turns out.
Come on.
Okay. All right.
Work with me here.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So, Gary, love these 3 wide receivers. It's interesting. All of them, some people may not argue they're not number 1 wide receivers, but they are. They're all number 1 wide receivers, all in good matchups. And I do want to comment. You didn't specifically say, check out the matchup Robbie Anderson has playing in the Dome in Atlanta against an Atlanta Falcon pass defense, which is, well,
it's bad pass defense right there.
So, all right. So let's take a look at quarterback. We always like to do running backs and wide receivers just to get a little lay of the land. We have $6,875 left to spend. And Gary, I like me some Patrick Mahomes, but $9,000 is too rich for my blood.
Yep.
And you know what? Dak Prescott mania. He priced him up to $8,700 and not as friendly a matchup because I don't think they're going to be having to come back against the Giants. So I'm going to scroll down and get to a guy who's been a victim of circumstance, who started the season playing 3 really tough defenses. I don't think anybody would have argued how good this guy is at the beginning of the season. And he did not have as strong a season so far because, look, he had to face Kansas City, Baltimore, and most definitely Pittsburgh. But what do we care about when we're picking a quarterback? Well, we certainly like a quarterback that's home. We certainly like the quarterback that is favored. And the implied total of Houston this week, they're favored against those Jacksonville Jaguars, 30 implied total. Love it. And I love the fact that we're playing that he's drew the Jacksonville Jaguars. But it's the defense our quarterback is going up against. First of all, the last 3 games, he's given up 30 points or more. And by the way, Gary, you can fact check me on that. That is actually true.
You didn't do a rounding error like I did.
No rounding error. And to Cincinnati, Miami, and Tennessee, hardly the best quarterbacks out there. And in 3 of those 4 games, specifically Joe Burrow, Ryan Tannehill, and Phillip Rivers, they threw for over 300 yards. Deshaun Watson is better than all of those guys. No offense to your Joe Burrow. Maybe one day Burrow will reach to him. Just an opportunity that I am excited to take advantage of. Welcome to our roster, Deshaun Watson.
Hey, that's awesome. No, I love that pick. And I think he's going to do really well against this defense. You know what I want to see, though, Eric? I want to see Deshaun Watson run some more. I'm hoping he does that against his defense. I don't like the trends that I've seen so far this year. There's no reason to believe that he won't. Deshaun Watson has been a top 5 quarterback rusher throughout his entire career, all the way back to his rookie year. There's no reason why he shouldn't be that way this season either. In fact, more so really, because he has less weapons than he's ever had. So he theoretically should need to rush more. I'd love to see it. So what's next? Do we drop it down to tight end?
Yeah. We're gonna spend some money, but surprisingly not the most expensive tight end, not even the second most expensive tight end. It's absurd that he's behind Mark Andrews, Gary. But your San Francisco 49er, George Kittle.
Look right behind me, folks. That's your tight end right there. Actually not. It looks like Patrick Willis and somebody else. But anyway.
Yeah, now Kittle has been hurt for most of this year, but he came back and played last week, and boy, did he ever. Video games type statistics last week. 15 catches and on 15 targets? Come on. That's like a cheat code in your video game. Let me just drop back, throw it short. And that's what your backup quarterbacks were doing, just zeroing in. I don't care, Gary, whether it's Nick Mullins or whether you get Garoppolo back here. I'm looking for big things for Kittle against a Miami Dolphin defense that is not good. I watched them last week play the Seahawks. Not impressed at all. You see their pass rank is 28th. I just would like to comment. What do we want from our tight end? We want a home favorite. Of course, that is what Kittle is. And his implied total is 27 points. I really think this is a good spot, Gary. What's your take on this?
I think it's a very good spot. It's not often you can say that a tight end that costs $7,100 is a good value. But I think you can do that here. Hey, he's the top tight end in the NFL. Everybody knows that. He's got the top per game statistics. And that's true last year. That's true so far. This year, if you don't count the one game that the new Green Bay tight end has played. And, the fact of the matter is, I think you'll never see George Kittle be outpriced, if you will, by Mark Andrews ever again. At least if FanDuel has any intelligence in their algorithm. So he's actually, believe it or not, a reasonably good value. I love the guy as a player. I love his, his role in the Niners because he's clearly their best receiver, right? Just happens to play tight end. I would temper just a little bit for the viewers at home. He's probably going to compete a little bit more for targets. The reason why I say that primarily is because Deebo Samuel is going to play a whole game. He was on a pitch count last time. So while technically you could say Deebo Samuel played the whole game, the reality is he was on a snap count. He won't, at least he's not expected to be on a snap count this game. Deebo Samuel is very, very talented. Pound for pound, he may actually be a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL.
A little insight on that price. You guys played Sunday night last week, right? And I believe FanDuel finalizes their salary before the Sunday night game closes. So I'm pretty sure if they would have got wind of that 15 for 15, he would not be less expensive.
That's an excellent point. So Kittle, I'm all for Kittle. I will always be all for Kittle, frankly. Let's drop down now, Eric. I gotta say, we should pat ourselves on the back. We have done a good job because not only have we got a killer lineup of wide receiver ones and running backs in great positions, yada, yada, yada. We've saved some money doing it. Mo money. What do you do with money? You spend it.
Yeah,
Let's do this, Eric.
I'm sure you're going to leave me plenty of points to get a good defense, plenty of salary for a
How about I just spend like a drunken sailor, folks? Come on. We got the Zeke dog waiting for us. Ezekiel Eliott is playing the New York Football Giants. Come on, you can't ignore that. You know, here's something. Everybody knows Zeke's one of the best running backs in the NFL. There's a reason why he's like the number 2, number 3 pick overall in season-long leagues every year after year. Okay? Well, he's doing it again this year too, but he's doing it a little bit differently. I don't know. I haven't read many articles. I haven't even heard a single announcer even talk about this. Zeke's getting his yards in a different way this year, and it actually helps for FanDuel purposes. He's still averaging 100 yards, 108 yards actually per game. That's pretty typical, right, of a top flight running back. But a third of them have been through the air. Okay, I just want to kind of pause and focus. That has never been true in Zeke's career. It's not that he hasn't caught passes, of course he has. But a third of his yards through the air, now that is different. That is Mike McCarthy coming to Dallas.
Game script. The Dallas has found themselves way behind Atlanta, behind in Seattle, and behind in Cleveland, which forced them in the situations where they had to throw. But what you loved is Ezekiel Eliott never left the field.
He never left the field, but not only that, they were throwing the ball from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. Game script helps. Of course it does. No doubt. And the game script will be different versus the Giants. No doubt about that too. But the fact of the matter is Mike McCarthy didn't have Aaron Rodgers throw all the time at Green Bay for nothing, right? I mean, Green Bay was one of the bottom 10 every single year in the percentage of run versus percentage of pass. Looks like Dallas is going to inherit that mantle this year. But the point is it's actually good for Zeke. It's not something you should be scared off of. Like Eric, my fine partner, says, they don't take him off the field. And hey, targets statistically are actually worth over double what carries are. So this guy, everything sets up great. By the way, let me just state the obvious for 10 seconds and I'll throw it back to Eric. Dallas is a huge favorite versus the Giants. The Giants are the bottom half against the run. And Eric, he just checks off all the boxes. Did you watch our master's class, Eric? Oh, wait, you were in the master's class. You helped design it. Right. Sorry about that. My bad. What do you want? You want the home running back. Well, check that box. You want the running back in the favorite. Okay, check that box too. And you want the running back in a great matchup. We are checking off all the boxes, folks. Zeke dog going to eat.
Yeah, 25, 28, 20, and 20 for touches.
Love it.
Incredible. If you want to, if you want to try to criticize Ezekiel Eliott, what I hear people criticize him on is, I'm just a little concerned about Eliott. You know, he doesn't get the goal line carries. You know, that stupid Dak Prescott will plunge in from 1 yard in. He did it in one game 3 times, really ticking Eliott owners up. But
I picked Eliott in that game. That pissed me off.
Yeah. You throw something at the TV?
Nah, I like my TV too much.
No, you shouldn't have that worry. Not that Dak Prescott won't do that every now and then. Guess who leads the league by a lot in inside the 5 carries? It's Ezekiel Eliott. 9 carries inside the 5 so far this year. The closest one is 6.
Absolutely. So Eric, all right, I admit it. I kind of spent like a drunken sailor there, but you have to admit, I left you a fair amount of money for a defense.
A fair amount? A fair amount?
Come on.
You know how little money you left me?
Come on.
I can't even afford.
Plenty of money.
I can't even afford the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Plenty of money. What are you talking about?
How bad they are. Well, I got one thing to tell you. Yes, we're going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, before you turn the video off and discuss, because there's no defense that has probably been more disappointing than the Cowboys. In fact, we picked the Cowboys last week, and roll please, they scored less points than Gary than I. Because they got negative points. But you got to look at who they're playing. They're at home. They're 9-point favorites. They should get up on the New York Giants. and force them in the passing situations. Forcing Gary, how is it going to work when you force Daniel Jones without Shepard, without Barkley? Could it be some mistakes?
You know, I got to tell you, the New York Giants have been such wonderful contributors to the opposing defenses. They are interception machines. They've thrown more passes than any other team in football that, according to these statistical algorithms, should have been intercepted. They're still top 5 in throwing interceptions, but the number 1 in passes that should have been intercepted. And, of course, what relates to that fact, they have been the second best offense to go against as an opposing defense in the National Football League. And Eric, like you said so eloquently earlier, there are 32 teams in the NFL. Their offense is 31st. Dallas may be a bad D, but this is one of those irresistible force meeting an immovable object kind of things. That's going to be countered by just the overwhelming positive game script that's going to go on in the New York Giants. I actually, even with the debacle that was last week in Dallas, I like this pick.
Yeah, so they've, by far, they being the Giants, have scored the least number of points this year. They've only scored 47, and that includes against teams that have only played 3 games. That's by 30 points less than everyone else. The last 2 games, and it's relevant, in the last 2 games were the 2 games which they did not have Barkley and they did not have Shepard. And their last 2 games, do you know how many touchdowns they've gotten, Gary?
I don't.
0. Not a single touchdown against your Niners, who didn't have Nick Bosa, who didn't have Dee Ford. They didn't even enter the red zone. That rounds out our cash game lineup, Gary.
I like it, Eric. Watson, Edwards, Helaire, Robinson, Boyd, Deontay Johnson, Robbie Anderson, George Kittle, Ezekiel Elliott, and the incredibly highly touted Dallas Cowboy defense. Eric, I love this lineup.
All right, let's go to GPP.
So, Eric, one of the things that I noticed about this GPP lineup is we got a couple stacks in there. Now, I think as our viewers know, that's the key to the GPP lineup. The key is find what the best stacks are in the NFL in that game slate and then capitalize on it. Eric, let's talk about it because I notice we got a quarterback, Lamar Jackson. We're pairing that with Malcolm Hollywood Brown as a receiver, but we got somebody else in that game too, the opposing receiver, Tyler Boyd. So talk about those 3 kind of together as a stack for a second and why we like it.
Yeah, this is, a contrarian stack because I think most people are going to go with the high, there's a couple other games that have higher over-under. But look, 51 points, which is what Cincinnati and Baltimore is a fine over-under. That is great. And we can take advantage of it. Yes, Lamar Jackson is expensive. We also know he has a super high ceiling. And the other 2 guys, the 2 receivers, I just think are woefully underpriced. Marquise Brown, and we already talked about Tyler Boyd, $6,100 and $6,000. Now, Gary, I want to talk to you a little bit about, we say sometimes that you don't necessarily want to stack a big running quarterback, and Lamar Jackson is a big running quarterback. So if you play him, you don't have to stack him. But he connects with Hollywood Brown as well, and given his price, it was too good to pass up.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, one of the reasons why this is a contrarian stack is because, and I'm just being honest here, folks, Marquise Brown hasn't done well this year at all, frankly. He certainly hasn't lived up to expectations. That's for sure. What hasn't been reflective of the amazing talent that he has, and of course that Lamar Jackson has, is how much they have come close to connecting. Look, you probably wouldn't know this unless you're a Baltimore Raven fan or for some reason are watching all the slate of games in the NFL. But Jackson and Brown have just missed on 7 different connections so far in the 4 games. Think about the routes that Brown runs, okay? This he very typically runs the fly patterns, right? He's got 2 major strengths. First of all, he's got a sprinter speed. So he outruns almost every defensive back that's out there. So they got to bring the single high safety or the double or the strong safety over to help. Second of all, or the free safety rather. Anyway, point is they got to double team him. And even then, he roasts the coverage. He's been thrown at on fly patterns 12 times already, and that's just in the last 3 games. That doesn't even count the first game, okay? That, by the way, leads the NFL. Now, the problem is they haven't connected. I get that, but I think that they will. I think it's only a matter of time. Why? Because this is the same guy through the first 4 weeks last year until he injured a hamstring, that he was the number one, literally the number one fantasy wide receiver in the NFL. That's how well he and Lamar Jackson were connecting. Now, can they cook up the same magic this year? Well, first of all, he's healthy. And second of all, he's even better because he's got the same skill set and a year more's worth of experience. And third of all, he's running the same routes. There's nothing different about this, folks. And I've seen the games, and I can tell you, they have just missed 7 times. Okay, add even 2 or 3 of those into his stats, and all of a sudden he would be way higher priced than 6,100 and have much better stats. So hey, you don't want guys with a high floor in GPP. You want guys with a high ceiling, and I'm telling you, this guy's got it, and that's why I love this stack so much.
Yeah, and to do the fly pattern, the big air yards, which is what we want, and that's what Marquise Brown does, you need to have your quarterback have time. And the Cincinnati Bengals defensive line does not put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
We talked about the big stack, so in honor of the Denny's Grand Slam breakfast, let's talk about the short stack. James Conner, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we chose the Pittsburgh defense too. So that's another kind of stack you can play if you think that the game script is going to work out. So what do? If a team is heavily favored, and of course the Pittsburgh Steelers are very heavily favored against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have a strong running game, those are the perfect combinations to take the running back from the favored team and to take the defense from the favored team, because let's face it, Philadelphia, especially if the over-under is even close to accurate, is going to have to be throwing all game long to play catch-up. So what do we like about Conner? Conner's got the high ceiling. Frankly, he's got a pretty high floor too. But the fact of the matter is, look, he's their guy. He's the guy. There was talk at the beginning of the year that maybe Anthony McFarland could jump all the way from number 3 to number 1, or at least poach some of the carries. Certainly Benny Snell. There was some talk about that. Folks, it hasn't materialized. And there's no reason to expect it to materialize. It didn't materialize last year. There was talk at the beginning of the year, but we're 4 games into it. I think we have enough evidence by now to know Conner's the guy. And he's not just the guy in first down, second down. He's the guy in third down too. Okay, and the guy at the red zone. So he's got an incredibly high ceiling against a very high volume rush offense when they are up. And Pittsburgh will be up in that game. At least that's what the odds makers say, and they say they're going to be up big. I expect Conner to get 25 touches this game. That is not a typo, folks. Philadelphia, it's not just that Pittsburgh is highly favored. It's that Pittsburgh, at least statistically right now, has a top 5 NFL defense. Going against Philadelphia, where, Eric, I really honestly believe that everybody thought that the Philadelphia passing game was going to be better than this. I don't know how much blame you want to lay on the quarterback versus the offensive line, but the fact of the matter is they have stunk. They have been awful. I mean, a lot of the blame, of course, should go to the fact that the weapons are almost all injured. It's been a carnage over there in Philly, but regardless, let's take advantage. They're going to be throwing, and when they throw, they are highly erratic, and, they make mistakes, and Pittsburgh can capitalize.
Yeah. Alshon Jeffries has missed all the games. Deshaun Jackson has missed all the games. I know he's been playing, but he's not.
Ouch.
Look at the box score. He's effectively missed all the games.
Carson Wentz just has not been good. It's not just the injuries. That dude is prone to mistakes this year, and I don't know why. I just know that it's been consistent for 4 games, and I think Pittsburgh's in a great position to capitalize on it, especially with that pass rush. They have a top 3 pass rush in the NFL in terms of pressures on the quarterback. They're going to be in Wentz's face. He can make a lot of mistakes, and it only takes 1 to have a pick 6. I think Pittsburgh's got a better chance of that than anybody, frankly.
The only other 2 guys that I want to make sure we talk about is Evan Ingram and Amari Cooper, and they're in the same game. One of the highest scoring games on the slate, the highest scoring game on the slate. The Cowboys and the Giants, both Ingram and Cooper, Gary, lead their respective teams in targets and receptions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is exactly the kind of game you want to target, Eric. Why? Because both teams are going to be throwing the ball a ton. So you definitely want their wide receiver ones. That's what has the highest ceiling, folks. And Some people might say, well, the Giants are going to have to throw because, for God's sakes, I mean, anytime that you're that big of an underdog, right, then of course you're going to have a high volume throw. Well, that's great. That's fantastic. I don't even care that they're not particularly good at it. Okay, that's because they don't have very many weapons. The one weapon that's healthy that they do have is Evan Ingram, and they are going to ride him like a horse, just like they have all year. And oh, by the way, the Dallas defense, they stink. They are bottom 5 against tight ends in the NFL. By the way, they're also in the bottom versus wide receivers too. They just don't have any kind of pass defense at all. And if you've seen any of their games this year, then you know that's true because it's been incredibly consistent. Evan Ingram is in probably the best position he's going to be in all year to capitalize.
All right, so that is our GPP lineup. Jackson, Edwards, Helaire, Connor, Brown, Boyd, Anderson, Ingram, Cooper, and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Gary, this was fun. Thank you for joining us this week. If you want to see more of Gary, you guys can do something which a lot of other people are not doing. Gary and I hosted a Showdown Slate show, right? So what we did was we went through and we went through, if you play captain slates, what we went through today is the main slate, right? Whole bunch of games. In the captain slate showdown, we focus on the single game, right? The contest is pick 6 guys, right? One has to be your captain, and it all comes from one game. So that's really popular to do on Thursday night games or maybe Monday night games. We walk through all the rules for you and all the different strategies. And I will make sure at the end of this video, we put that video on so you can click on it and see more of Gary and I giving you guys strategy and analysis for your showdown slates.
In the meantime, Eric, it has been an absolute pleasure to come back and do this show with you again one more time. To the viewership, it's been a pleasure just to be in front of you, drop a little knowledge, hopefully be a little entertaining. I promise you, I had a wonderful time in my tenure. I miss this. I love the fact that I'm a full-time teacher, but man, I think you're in great hands with Eric. Just keep watching.
All right, so we'll put the link to that video down below Gary, and we'll also link to our DraftKings video for week 5 as soon as that becomes available. Thanks so much, everybody. Don't forget to leave in the comment section who your best pick is for week 5 on FanDuel so you can qualify for that $100 contest. See you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.